Only weeks ago, an earthquake in Haiti collapsed more than 60,000 buildings. On some roads, not a single building survived intact. More than 2,000 people died. And I'm not sure of the total yet. There's nothing novel about earthquakes or the damage they cause. But this one was so very preventable. Only 11 years before, another earthquake had killed almost 250,000 people in the same country. Again, crushed to death under the rubble of collapsed buildings. Collapsed buildings is the common theme here, not deaths. Many of the world's top engineering experts, after the quake 11 years ago, descended on the Caribbean nation to help. The World Bank published scores of technical reports on how to prevent another disaster. Charities taught local companies ways to improve cinder block and other concrete materials like reinforcing steel bars, which everybody calls rebar. The government introduced a new building code in 2012, long before now, and created a technical bureau for buildings. Wow. Well, that just all sounds great, right? Except everybody ignored the advice. No kidding. Almost everybody. It was like it hadn't happened. Their attitude is typified in a recent interview with one grandmother after the recent quake, who was huddled under a plastic sheet near her destroyed home. Of course, they're getting this on video, explaining why she and her 2 grandchildren were sitting outside in the rain outside their collapsed home. She said they had ignored the building permits, they had ignored all the recommendations, and they saved some money by building their home more cheaply. Now, I'm not insensitive to the fact that very often building a home takes everything that somebody has. I mean, they were already scraping by and it's difficult to even build a shelter. I get it. I've built many things myself of wood, concrete, cinder block, and rebar. And I do know for a fact that leaving out the materials to make something more earthquake resistant by a lot might save 10% in initial building costs. Really, the additional cost of rebar after you do the concrete and everything else is minimal, and the additional strength is unbelievably bigger. But the price of ignoring these strengthening materials can be catastrophic, as they discovered. In some cases, buildings fell because the owners had saved 5% by omitting a few pieces of steel, or, this one's particularly egregious, adding too much water to the concrete, which is criminally stupid and weakens the concrete to the point where it's just almost worthless. Or they used sand contaminated by other materials so that it was worthless. So if they were strapped for cash, which many of us are, they could have simply built a smaller building or waited a little longer and weathered the earthquake. Again, no criticism. They just ignored the information available, as, you know, we all do. The point isn't the Haitian earthquake. It's that we human beings do not think ahead about the consequences of our choices. We don't. We do whatever is comfortable in the moment. Now, that's obvious in an earthquake, in the aftermath. It's less obvious in our own personal lives. We ignore the day-to-day choices about whether to be truthful, loving, teaching, mostly in ignorance. We ignore the little transgressions and attitudes of our children, and then we're surprised when events, emotional and spiritual, cripple or destroy them and us. What can we do? We can begin to recognize first that we caused most of the pain in their lives. Now, mostly we didn't know any better, but we still caused it. And the real reason is that, and the real lesson is that now we can learn how to prevent these continuing catastrophes. We can learn to love and teach. We can put reinforcing steel, rebar, and concrete into the foundations and walls and ceilings of our children's lives. We can protect them from earthquakes. No kidding. So let's do that. And quit saving on building materials. Quit saving 5%, 10% effort here and there, resulting in their deaths. I've told you about cases where teenagers have not been taught, and the parents just go, oh, they're doing fine. And then the kid is dead, like in an earthquake. There's not much you can do then. What are we going to bury him in? Let's stop looking for the cheap and easy way to plant seeds and just hope that they turn out okay. We'll just pitch a few out in the backyard and, it'll be all right. No, it won't. We can avoid most of the destruction that later we claim is puzzling or unavoidable. It's not puzzling. None of these things are surprises. Right now, as you sit here, you're taking a course in emotional and spiritual engineering, construction, and the use of concrete and rebar as you're devouring this parenting training. Congratulations, nice work. You'll be prepared.